Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about my experience with COVID-19 and I'm going to talk about how it affected my OCD on my recovery journey so far, and I'm going to talk about the experiences and what happened and so on and so forth. So about 2 weeks ago, my wife started to feel slightly ill and I still have a minor cough. So she was having headaches and she got tested. As many of you know, my wife and I are both chiropractors. We also drive for food delivery, so we are in contact with a lot of people. And what happened is she got tested. And by the time my wife got tested, I was already showing the milder signs. Headache, slight cough, low-grade fever about 100. And then what happened is over a couple days, my symptoms started to get really bad. And I realized I had to quarantine. CDC guidelines where I am say 10 days from the onset of symptoms, your symptoms have to be better and you can't have a fever for 24 hours before you go out. So what happened is my headache started to get really bad. And I started to have a more high-grade fever for longer periods of time. So I had a fever of 102. The highest reading I had was 104.1. I was consistently in the 102.9 range, 103.2 range. And I know as a medical provider that this was actually getting serious. When I knew things were getting bad was, as many of you know, shortness of breath. So pulmonary pathology is the main reason why people are passing away from COVID. It's the pneumonia, aka shortness of breath, and your lungs are filling up with mucus, and then they stop breathing. It's pretty sad. So pulse ox, if you ever seen the thing that goes on your finger, should be around 95 to 100% for a healthy individual, especially my age, but I live at elevation, so it was about 82 when it should still be in that 92 to 95 range. When you live at 6,500 feet like I do, it will be a little bit lower because of the elevation. So I started to feel like I was on a 14,000 foot mountain sitting on my couch, and I knew something was wrong. So I went to the hospital, I got a chest x-ray done, and I already knew what the results were going to be. I had bilateral pneumonia in both of my lungs, heavily in my lower left lobe, and it was not good. My pulse ox was actually dropping down to the low 70s, which means that my shortness of breath was really bad. To give you an idea, imagine sprinting as fast as you can for 200 feet, all out sprint, and then trying to, that's how I was breathing, standing still. So they put me on oxygen. And this is when my OCD and anxiety spiraled. So I was inside of an ER room, basically isolated, and nothing, no distractions, no books, no phone really, and just on oxygen. And I started to absolutely freak out. So I have never had health OCD in my life, but the clinicians there were not using the best terminology, and I'm going to say this. As a medical provider, the research is very clear. The terminology you use with your patients has a major predictor of their outcome. So if you see someone and they're like, yeah, you're probably just going to die, and the person doesn't have any tools, that person, OCD or not, is more than likely going to freak out. So remember that. The verbiage used by the medical provider plays a huge role in the recovery process, psychologically. So I started freaking out because they were being very blunt. And, I understand that some people don't have the most compassion, or some people just see so many cases and they were like, listen, people where you are either plummet or stay pretty bad and then recover. So I was freaking out, started catastrophizing. And this would be probably something normal that most people would do without OCD, because the media has completely fear-stricken every single person when the survival rates are actually not that bad. And the survival rates are pretty good. And I'm not saying that COVID is not serious, because it is very serious. I had it very serious, probably in the top 10%, 15%, because of my pneumonia. And I was stuck in this room and I started freaking out. My somatic OCD was on fire. My mouth was pooling with saliva. I started actually bringing back blinking hyper-awareness, which I haven't had in a year. I started getting breathing hyper-awareness, never have had breathing OCD, mainly saliva and salivate, swallowing, and I bugged out. So completely forgot all the tools and just spiraled. So it was a really tough time. I got sent home after about 5 or 6 hours in the ER with an oxygen unit at my house, and I slept for 36 hours. I was on oxygen, still couldn't breathe. When I took myself off, I would try, and it was just this downward spiral of just absolute chronic, severe, debilitating anxiety. I felt probably the worst I have felt in all of my recovery journey so far, which is 7 months. So it was just like this nightmare scenario in my mind because I was catastrophizing, making it out to seem like I'm going to die. Like I gave up for like 3 days. I'm like, I'm going to die. This is what's going to happen and so forth. So after being on oxygen for 36 hours at my house and realizing that my fever was starting to go away, I saw some hope. But that's not the real reason why my mindset started to change. In that time, lying in my bed, I said to myself, okay, let's break down what's going on. So the chances of you surviving COVID are actually really good. Stop listening to the media and start focusing on the reality of what the teachings through Albert Ellis are. So I started breaking down my irrational fears. I started breaking down the worst case scenario, even if I was to pass away. I've had a great life. I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of great things going for me, and so forth. That was a worst case scenario. But then I started looking at the more realistic outcome. You know, I'm more than likely going to get better. I might have shortness of breath for a couple of weeks. Big deal. And I started to see my fears dissipate pretty quickly. Now, I'm very fortunate. I've been working with Rob, and I also have been doing a lot of work in recovery pretty consistently. So I have a toolbox. I have something to help me when things get really tough, which happens throughout the recovery journey. So I would say about 4 days after being on oxygen, I was pretty solid. But I had a lot of people messaging me from OCD recovery like, yo, what's going on? Like, you're not active as a moderator. You know, I've heard you're really sick. And there was a lot of support in this community. And I really want to touch on the importance of this OCD community and the WhatsApp group and the forum or the Facebook group. I've had people talk down about these things, but that's okay. They just don't understand how important it is to have community, and not in a reassurance base. That's why I'm a moderator, and there's 9 other moderators, I believe. But we all help each other pinpoint when we're giving each other reassurance or when we're catastrophizing, and then we help each other get out of those situations. Because reassurance is not just obviously the drug of choice for OCD. Reassurance is a major problem in life, and it creates these massive irrational beliefs that we all have. Like, if you work really hard, you're going to be successful. Not always true. And, you know, if you do the right things, this will happen. You know, when you reassure people and those things aren't true, they're just not real, because if they were, everyone who did certain things would reach certain levels of success or health, but that doesn't actually happen. So this is a major problem outside OCD. So when I started to be able to go back out in public again, which was 5 days ago, I was bad. I have also suffered from GAD. So like right now, sitting here, and this is an important topic to talk about, my anxiety right now is 10 out of 10. Right now. You would look at me and never know that. That's what makes mental health a unique thing, because you can't see it. As I always say, when someone has their arm cut off, you could say in your perception's a little bit easier to have compassion and empathy. But right now, I have had GAD for about 5 months. It is pounding away. But my mindset is completely different and my perspectives are completely different. And this is part of the journey. And this is really important to talk about. So like if you have health OCD and you get COVID or so and so forth, that lingering anxiety more than likely will not go away that day. Especially with something like somatic OCD, it has its own unique aspects of how to approach it. The tools are simple, but the persistency is what actually leads to recovery with getting under your fears long term. So this is a really important video because things in life happen, and we do not have control over 99.9% of the things that humans believe we have control over. So again, I just wanted to talk about what it was like when it was really bad, and show you that, even during recovery, People that may seem like they have things under control have setbacks, have relapses. That's part of the journey of recovery. So I am here to tell you that, I was not okay. I was not okay, and it's completely okay. I know it's a cliche statement, but it is okay to not be okay. And I was completely not okay. But I'm a lot better now. I'm allowed to go outside. I'm back to working out. I hiked. And I think that this is a really important video to get out there. Thank you so much for listening. It means a lot. Thank you so much for watching all of my videos. If you want to learn more, please subscribe to OCD Recovery. This channel is absolutely amazing. I'm friends with a lot of the people that make videos. I'm also becoming friends with people in the Facebook group because I do quite a bit of moderating in there. And this is a great community, okay? We live in a great time, guys, where something like this could happen. If COVID existed, we've had all sorts of stuff, but I want to leave it at this. If COVID existed 55 years ago, without the tools we have now, think about how much harder it would be to cope with that because you don't understand the tools that we are all learning together. So we are very fortunate. We live in a great time. And thank you for listening. And I hope you have a terrific day.